All right, fine. So in the last lecture, I discussed about the Bayes theorem. The Bayes theorem says that the probability of the hypothesis given data is given by the probability of the hypothesis. Probability of hypothesis given data, this is also called the a posterior probability, or this is also called posterior. This is given by probability of the hypothesis, which we call as the a priori probability, or we call this term as the prior term, into the likelihood function, which is basically the probability of data given hypothesis, and then we need to scale it by the probability of the data. Now, I was taking an example of, let us say you are trying to find a person in Delhi, right? And you have little information, you have very little prior information that the person lives in North Delhi. So that means you have at least some a priori information, or you can associate this term PH, which is the priori probability that the person lives in North Delhi. The person is not there in South, East, or West Delhi. So you have a certain probability attached to that, right? So this term you can obtain. Now the question is that if you're trying to locate a person, you can't by this much information only that the person is in North Delhi, you cannot find the person. So you need some more data to find a person, specific location of the person. That means you need to know in which locality, in which street, in which house number the person resides. So as you are getting more and more data, so that probability is known as the probability of the data given the hypothesis. The hypothesis is that you are trying to locate a person. What is the probability of data? That first of all, you get the information about that the person lives in that locality. Let us say Tilak Nagar. Then you get, this is the probable likelihood of the data given hypothesis. Then you get more data. Let's say the person lives in that street number 5. Then you get more data that the person lives in that house. All right. So you improve your likelihood. You as and when you are getting more and more data, your probability of this probability hypothesis given data is coming true. All right. So probability of hypothesis given data which is posterior, is actually dependent on the priori probability and the probability of data given hypothesis. You need to scale the terms, multiplication of these two terms with probability of data. There we'll see that why we are doing this. That means you have to normalize by probability of data. But what is our goal? Our goal is to find out this. Our goal is to find out, given data, what is the likely state of our hypothesis, which is also known as the posterior. So this is known as the Bayes theorem. Now, what do I mean by Bayes inference? So for example, you have some priori information that the person lives in North Delhi. Then you start obtaining the first data that the person lives in that locality. So you have the likelihood of data given hypothesis, and you also have the probability of data, right? In that case, you will calculate the probability of the hypothesis given data. Now, next time, when more data comes, for example, the person lives in that street, what you can do, this is very important, please understand that. For the previous term, where you calculated the probability of the hypothesis given data, when you have only one data available that the person lives in that locality. So you calculated your probability of hypothesis given data. Now you can use this. Now you can use the calculated probability of hypothesis given data, and you can put this value in PH, which is the a priori probability. So when you obtain the first data, you calculate the posterior, right? For the next time, you use that posterior in the place of prior. As you get more data, you will then calculate probability of H given data, right? So that means as you go on calculating the posterior, for the next iteration, you will use that posterior as priori, and then you will calculate the fresh posterior. Then you will, for the next iteration, you will use the posterior as a priori. As the data is coming to you, you will calculate the posterior. So this is known as Bayesian inference. This is known as Bayes filter. That means you are doing a kind of filtering in your mind as you are obtaining the data, and you are trying to refine your achieving the hypothesis. Okay, so this Bayes has given this theorem based on general thinking of the mind, and this theorem proves to be very important even in the technical aspects of engineering. All right. So let us now, because these are all probabilities, so let's look at their distributions, that what type of distributions these probability terms has. Now, iteratively, I have written here, iteratively, you improve the estimate based on improvement in the quality of data, more data, of course, as and when more data is coming, you are improving the quality of data and you are improving the estimate. So this is called recursive Bayesian filter, right? Or this comes under the, this is also known as Bayesian inference. All right. Then let me have the full screen. Okay. So this is known as the Bayesian filter. Now let us look at the distributions now. What about the probability of the hypothesis? How, for example, along the x-axis is the h variable, which is space of the possibilities. That if that the person will be there at this point, this is the probability. The person is there at this point, this is the probability. So this pH is the probability of the hypothesis. Any hypothesis, right? H is given by different hypotheses. For example, if the height is 5 feet, 6 feet, if you're looking for persons in the community with 5 feet height, so what is the probability? If the persons are 6 feet height, so what is the distribution of the different persons having different heights? So I can just correlate with this example. So this is known as the probability of the hypothesis, or the a priori probability. This is known, and this also gives me for example, if a person is 6 feet height, right? Actually, how many persons will be of 6 feet height? It gives the state of the information in the community, and this x-axis gives us the hypothesis is that 4 feet height, 4.5 feet height, 5 feet height, 5.5, 6 feet height. How many? What is the distribution? That means you are able to distinguish different states of the hypothesis with distribution. So therefore, this is also known as state space. This H is also known, or the hypothesis is also known as the state space. And this is the probability distribution of this term, which is the probability of the, which is a priori probability. All right. Now, so I'm drawing here, I'm writing the Bayes formula once again. I'm drawing the probability of the hypothesis, right? This is hypothesis along the x-axis, and this is the probability of the hypothesis. Now let us look at this term now. We have seen this term. Now let us look at this term, probability of data given H. First of all, let us look at probability of data given H with data. So as you have more data, the probability of data given hypothesis, it will be a kind of distribution. The area under the curve for the a priori probability is also 1, and area under the curve for this PD given H, but with respect to D, is also 1. So this is distribution over D. But actually, we are not interested in data. We are interested in the likelihood function, how it is varying with hypothesis. All right. So let us have so we will be building joint distribution, that is the probability of data and hypothesis. So let us look at this graph now. Let me explain this, because we have this is probability distribution, and this area under the curve is 1. But let us, because we are interested in probability of data given hypothesis, what is this value along along the how it is varying with the hypothesis. All right, so we will go with the joint. This is a 3-dimensional graph. This dimension, one dimension is D, which is data. The other dimension is hypothesis. And the third dimension is the joint probability of D and H. Right. So at a particular hypothesis, which is, let's say, HI, this is the distribution. And this distribution tells us that it is equal to, for a particular hypothesis, this is the bold line, this is the distribution, and this distribution is 1. For another hypothesis, this is the distribution. For another hypothesis, this is the distribution. Now, for particular one data, if you look at this dotted line, the red color, for particular one data, and now that means I have fixed the data, and I am trying to find out probability of D, joint probability of D and H, with, how it varies with different hypotheses. Now here you will get this type of curve, right? This is the distribution of, this is joint distribution PD given H along PD given H with respect to the hypothesis. All right. Now, if you look at this, this is not given H, this is joint probability. Let us look at from this graph only how this distribution will vary. At a particular data, this is the curve. Now, this curve is not giving you total probability of 1. This is not a probability curve. That's why I said this likelihood function PD given H is not the probability distribution. This it is not, that's why it is known as the likelihood function. The area under the curve for this particular term will not be equal to 1. So that is why it is normalized by the probability of data to make it a probability term. So it is normalized to 1 only, right? So these are various distributions which are involved in the Bayes theorem. But the important thing to remember is that the posterior probability is given by the a priori probability into the likelihood function, which is basically the probability of data given hypothesis divided by the probability of data. All right. So this is how, just graphically, I'm trying to explain here that if you calculate the posterior for a particular data, right, then you for the next iteration you use that posterior as a prior, and you go on refining your term. So that's what I have written here. Plug H given data 1, first amount of data at place of PH, and calculate new posterior. So calculate new posterior, whatever the value you will get. Next time you again use it as a prior and then calculate. So these are, I mean, the Bayes theorem will work as an iterative formula, and you can go on improving your inference about your hypothesis. So that's particularly the physical significance of the Bayes theorem. Now, let us talk about some more rules of probability, just to finish this topic of probability. These three terms are known as, these three equations are known as the axioms of probability, where the probability of an event A lies between 0 and 1. Probability of the sample space is 1, right? And if A and B are disjoint events, then probability of A union B is given by PA plus PB. And you can extend this term as to a general term, to a more general term, which is the union formula. Now, what is known as the difference? So there is one more term, which is the difference rule. Let us say there are two events, A and B. B is a subset of A, basically. So what is A? A is actually B union B complement intersection A, right? So basically B complement intersection A is defined as A backslash B, which is actually difference. That means whatever is there in A, not in B. Though B is a subset of A, but A difference B is that whatever is not there in B and whatever is there only in A, so that we call as the B, that we call as the A difference B. Right. So this is one rule which you need to which you need to understand. So what is the difference? Difference is A given B, right? Which is given by PA minus PB. So you can derive this expression, simple equation that I will share these notes with you, right? Now there is one important term, which one important type of trial to start the probability concepts. That is the Bernoulli trial. But what is a Bernoulli trial? A trial for which the outcomes are only two. So many experiments have just two outcomes. For example, tossing a coin can have head or tail, even or odd, fly or crash, win or lose, and so on. So these trials are known as the Bernoulli trials. So let us say, and we can associate for one outcome as success, the other outcome as failure. So what is, let us say if the probability of success is P, then the probability of failure is 1 minus P. We can write it as Q. Right. So this is known as, these are known as Bernoulli trial. In your, in your examples, in tute sheets or in exam, so I can directly say that this is a Bernoulli trial. So that means you must understand it will have only two outcomes, either success or failure. This is another inclusion and exclusion principle, which says that if the two events are for any events A and B, the probability that either occurs is given by probability A union B is PA plus PB minus PA intersection B when the events are dependent. So this will be given by PA plus PB minus PA intersection B. If the events are disjoint, in that case, this term will be 0. So by simple probability rules, we can prove this also, that probability A union B is given by PA plus PB minus PA intersection B when the events are dependent. When the events are not dependent, so you can say that it is this when events are independent, so you can say this term, the last term, third term will be 0. Okay, so two more points are there in this first presentation. Then I will start sharing the next one. One is known as the expected value. So how do you define the expected value? Let us say these are the outcomes, x1, x2 up to xn, and the p1, p2 up to pn are the probabilities associated with these outcomes. Now, what is the expected value? Expected means the kind of mean value. Expected value is given by Ex, and this is given by x1 p1, the outcome into p1 plus x2 p2 up to xn pn. So let us do one example here, that if this is a kind of a roulette wheel, so it costs $1 to play the game, right? So you can, wherever the arrow will stop, those many dollars you can earn. So this is $2, $0, $1, $10, and this is again $0. That means $0 means that you are not earning anything. Okay, but it costs $1 to play the game. So let us try to see these are the outcomes. Outcomes are $0, $1, $2, $10, and -1. -1 means because you are going to lose $1 also. Every time you will lose $1. That means its probability is always 1 when you play the game. So what is the probability associated with when you will win $0? So the overall this circle is divided into 4 sectors. $0, $0. So that means the probability associated with is 2 by 4. So probability is 1 by 2. What is the probability of winning $1? $1 is 1 by 8. $2 is 1 by 4. $10 is 1 by 8 again. And -1 is always 1 because you're going to lose $1 every time when you play the game. So I'm interested in the expected value. So this is the expected value. So the point is that it is to be every outcome has to be multiplied by its corresponding probability. So -1 multiplied by 1 is -1, and so on. You do this, what you will get is 0.875. So expect to win on average. If you play this game, you can expect to win on average $0.875 per game. So that's the meaning of the expected value, that on an average, you can expect to win $0.875 per game when you play this game with the with the different probabilities associated with different outcomes. Then there is one more important term which is known as the variance. So how the variance is defined, let us say for any trial the sample size is n, variance is denoted by s, and it is s square basically. If we don't take the square, it will be standard deviation, but variance is given by sigma I going from n, xi, which is the outcome, minus the mean value whole square divided by n minus 1. So let us take an example. Let us say this values of x can be 6, 3, 8, 5, and 3. Let us try to find out the mean value. The mean is found out by adding all these values and divided by 5. So 5 is the mean. Now let us find out x minus x bar. That means every sample value has to be subtracted from the mean value. So this is done like that. So xi minus x bar. So these are the difference values. Then you have to square this xi minus, because in the formula you will have to put the square, xi minus x bar square, right? Then you need to add all these squares, which is 18. That means you have obtained the numerator term, and divided by n minus 1. How many sample values, how many elements are there? N minus 1 is, because n is 5, so you will have to divide it by 4. So 9 by 2, it is 4.5. So this is how you can calculate the variance or standard deviation, right? And you can calculate the expected value, correct? Let me now stop sharing this PPT and start sharing the new one, where we will talk about the random variables. So let me stop this. Actually, this is important. From here, probably you might have studied or not studied, I don't know. But from here, leaving the concepts of basic concepts of probability, we will start with a fresh topic of random variable. Then we will talk about the distributions, the probability density function, the cumulative distribution function, probability mass function, and how to calculate the cumulative distribution. That we would like to see in this class. Now, what is a random variable? It's very important, in 11 you are doing electronics and communication engineering. People, pass whole degrees, but when in an interview somebody asks to define a random variable, probably sometimes they may fumble. So I have tried to give you very crisp kind of definitions with examples I will take, so that you can understand the concept very clearly. Now, what is the random variable, right? Let me take an example where the example that I'm taking is tossing a coin. So it will have, it's a very important example and very common example that we take. So two outcomes are there, head and tail, which form the sample space. So my random variable will belong to this sample space, this set. I will define what is the random variable, but x belongs to this sample space. Now head is, now let me define random variable. What is a random variable? Random variable is defined as a variable which maps the sample space onto the real numbers. This is a simple definition of random variable and very correct definition of random variable. Now this is my sample space. defining the sample space by elements like head and tail, these are not real numbers. But we have to map this sample space using a random variable x to map it to real numbers. So that will be my random variable. What is a random variable? Random variable is defined as the variable which, which maps the sample space onto the real numbers. And when you are mapping the sample space onto the real numbers, there will be probability associated with each with each outcome. That means, let x is a random variable. For this example, probability of x equal to 0 is half, and probability of x equal to 1 will be equal to half. If the coin is unbiased, so these are the probabilities associated with each value of the random variable. This is the probability x equal to 0, which is half, probability x equal to 1. And if we draw the curve, the graph, how the graph is drawn, this is very important. Capital X, I am taking as a random variable, right? Along the x-axis is small x, which actually takes the values of capital X. This is a usual practice to denote a random variable and the probability associated with that. How do we denote it? We denote it by probability. In the subscript, we will write capital X. That means capital X is the random variable. And in the argument, we will write small x, which actually define the values of the random variable. This is a very standard practice you will see in the books to write what is the random variable and what are the probabilities associated with the random variable. So X is my random variable. What is the probability associated with capital X? Probability subscript capital X, argument is small x. Now small x can have values. What values it can have? It can have 0 or 1. That's what we have mapped to real number. That's what is our sample space basically. Sample space is mapped to real number, which is done by the random variable. Random variable is defined as the variable which maps the sample space onto the real number. So let's take these two values. X can be 0, X can be 1. What is the probability associated with that? When it is 0, it is half. When it is 1, it is half. This graph is known as the probability distribution function of this random variable X. This graph is known as the probability distribution function of this random variable X. I hope the definition of random variable is very clear. Random variable is, I'm again repeating because the definition is very simple and a very correct definition. All right. Okay. Now, when I have already defined the random variables can be of two types. One is a discrete random variable. The other can be a continuous random variable. I hope you understand the meaning of discrete random variable, where small x can have discrete values. Continuous random variable, where the x-axis variable, x-axis term will have continuous values. So random variable can be either discrete or it can be either continuous. Okay. Now, when you talk about the, because this is the probability distribution, here our x is a discrete random variable because it can have values 0, 1. Between 0 and 1, there are no values, so it is not continuous random variable. And this graph is known as the probability distribution function in general. But specific to discrete random variables, when we know that the x is a discrete random variable, this probability distribution function will be termed as, specifically to discrete random variable, this is termed as probability mass function. All right. So probability PMF, probability mass function, when the random variable is discrete. When the random variable is continuous, this probability distribution function will be specifically called as probability density function. I will take an example also. PDF, probability density function, when the random variable is a continuous random. And there is one more distribution which is known as CDF, and this is abbreviated as cumulative distribution function. From both PMF and PDF, both can construct CDF, which is cumulative distribution function. We'll talk about this in the coming slides. Let's take an example here for a discrete random variable throwing a dice once. So what is the probability? The outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the probability associated with this? It is 1 by 6. So 1 by 1, when the outcome is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can associate the probabilities associated with each outcome. Because the probability associated with each outcome is same, so this bar is of the same height. Every bar for every outcome is of the same height. But this is known as the probability mass function. And in general, representation remains the same. X-axis will be denoted by small x. Y-axis will be denoted by P subscript capital X, which tells us that it is X as the random variable and the argument is small x. But this is known as probability mass function. All right. Then let us try to understand what is CDF, how to obtain CDF, which is cumulative distribution function, from the probability mass function. Let us look at it. Now, the height of this bar for each outcome in PMF tells us about the probability of that outcome. But in cumulative distribution function, the height of the bar will not tell us the probability of happening of that outcome. But it will tell us, for example, let's say x, I'm talking about x less than equal to 4. We normally define the cumulative distribution function. As an example, I'm taking here probability x less than equal to 4. For any value of the random variable, what is the probability of all the terms below that term, right? So the height actually tells me what is this probability when x is less than equal to 4. It will be given by probability x is equal to 1 plus probability x is equal to 2 plus probability x is equal to 3 plus probability x is equal to 4. So 4 probabilities when summed, which is equal to 4 by 6, will give me what? Will give me probability x is less than equal to 4. So the look at 4, it is 4 times 1 by 6 added. And at the last bar for the outcome of 6, when all the probabilities are added for all the outcomes, it should go to 1. The last bar in the cumulative distribution function will always be equal to 1. Please remember that. The last bar in the cumulative distribution function will always be equal to 1. But this is not the case in PDF or PMF in the case of discrete random variable, probability mass function. All right. So this is by drawing of this type of curve is known as the cumulative distribution function. So I have told you about two distribution functions. One is PMF, which is probability mass function when the random variable is a discrete random variable. CDF is cumulative distribution function when either the random variable can be either discrete or random, or discrete or continuous, but how it is to be drawn is something like this. Right. Now in CDF, height does not represent a probability of rolling a 4, but it represents probability. Height at 4 does not represent the probability of happening of 4 in CDF. Please remember that. This is very important because you will get questions in the exam or also and in the tube sheets also relating to CDF and PDF and PMF. In CDF, the height of the bar represent probability x less than equal to 4. No, it's not p x equal to 4. In CDF, final height has to be equal to 1. That means what is the last outcome? Last outcome is 6. What is the probability of x less than equal to 6? It is 1. Now, this is again very important. Let us say now in this third point, against this third point, let us say that I'm using a biased dice. I am not using an unbiased dice. How it is biased? It is biased towards 1, 2, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 5, and 6. But you will never get the outcome as 3 and 4. Right? This is very important. This will actually tell you the relationship between the probability mass function and the cumulative distribution function. So I am using a biased dice, which is favoring only to 1, 2, 5, and 6. You will not get any outcome of 3 and 4. And because this is very obvious from the probability mass function from this distribution also. Against 3 and against 4, the height of the bar is 0, because there is 0 probability of happening of 3 and 4 when I'm taking a biased dice. Now let's look at what is happening in CDF. Of course, this is probability x less than equal to 1. This probability is x less than equal to 2. Of course, the two probabilities will be added up, but you will see that probability x less than equal to 3 and x less than equal to 4 will remain flat here. Flat as it was probability x less than equal to 2. Why this is flat? Because there is no distribution against outcome 3 and outcome 4. Right? And I will say this point technically as the gradient is flat. In the cumulative distribution function, the gradient is flat for outcomes 3 and 4. Right? So there is no 3 or 4. Probability x less than equal to 4 is equal to x less than equal to 2. So I hope you are able to understand now that when the gradient will be flat, when there is no distribution in PMF. That's the important point you have to remember. When there is more of probability in the PMF, you will get a steeper or sharper or higher gradient in CDF. I will talk about this point in the next slide. Now let us talk about the that means flatness in cumulative distribution function indicates what? It indicates that there is no mass in probability mass function. What is the meaning of mass? There is no distribution corresponding to those outcomes where in CDF the curve is flat. That's an important point. I will elaborate this point more just now only. Let us look at the continuous distributions. That when the random variable in question is a continuous random variable, and I'm taking the example of female heights. Right? Female height is a continuous random variable. Why? Because the female height can be 165.387, it can be 165.38785, and so on. So that means the female height is a continuous random variable, and when the random variable in question is continuous random variable, and of course there will be probability associated with each height, correct? And that probability distribution will not be called as probability mass function, rather it will be called as probability density function. And along x-axis is probability density. In this discrete random variable case, along y-axis is probability mass. But in the case of continuous random variable, the variable along y-axis will represent probability density, and this overall function will be called as probability density function. And when I'm taking the example of the female heights, when the number is very large, of course, you will get a Gaussian distribution, a bell-shaped curve. And I'm varying the heights from 140 centimeters to 190 centimeters, where 165 is the mean height. And you will see that along the mean, there is maximum distribution, because along y-axis is the distribution. It is 0.01 here, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04. This is maximum at 165. Right. This is known as probability density function in the case of a continuous random variable. But let us come to the cumulative distribution function in the case of continuous random variable. Please remember, very important point, whenever in the probability density function, there is a bell-shaped curve, right? You will always find in cumulative probability function an S-shaped graph. In CDF, you will get S-shaped graph when there is a bell-shaped curve in the probability density function. So you will get an S-shaped graph. Along y-axis are the probabilities, and the last value of probability in cumulative distribution function will always be equal to 1. As I told you, in the case of probability mass function, the last bar height will be equal to 1. Now, height is not a discrete distribution, as I have told you, but a continuous distribution. The values can be like this. Any bell-shaped curve in PDF will look like S-shaped curve in CDF. Very important one. So let's look at this. I think, what is the time? Time is about to finish, actually. I will catch up with the same topic in the next lecture. All right, because this is very important topic, and I will take you an example also how to obtain the cumulative distribution function from a PDF probability density function. I will take examples because these examples are very important, and you may find these examples in your tute sheets and final exam. So I will catch up with the same topic of random variable. And I will try to briefly discuss for a few minutes about general discussion, and then I will catch up with the CDF and PDF, and how you can interchangeably obtain PDF from CDF and CDF from PDF. What is the importance of CDF? What is the importance of PDF? Any questions till now you have, you please ask. Otherwise, I will end the lecture. I will share the lecture recordings with you. I will also share these notes on LMS. I was checking, but on LMS, probably the subject is not tagged. As and when the subject is tagged, I will share. But I can share these notes with the class CR, group CRs, just now only. One important thing I want to mention here, in my first PPT on review of probability, actually, I used some app, which was, in that PDF file, you will see that the first page is at the last and the last page is at the first. So only that is only true for the first PPT, for the first presentation. For the second presentation, there's no issue. But if I get the time, I will send you the correct PDF. But right now I will be sending you these two notes, right? And I will share the videos also on LMS. And for the first PPT, as I have told you, the PPT starts from last slide and it ends at first slide. So just I have written down the numbers on the pages, so there will be no problem. I finish my lecture here. Thank you so much. I will catch up with the same topic, very important topic, in the next lecture. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So can you please share email ID or number?
Okay. My phone number is 76964 76964 00 690. 76964 00 690. And my email
Thank
ID.
you, sir.
Email ID you also write down. Email ID is Sanjay, small letters, Sanjay, SANJAY, dot is important, sanjay.sharma @thapar.edu. All right. You can post your questions anytime on my email, on my WhatsApp, in Zoom classes, anytime you can ask any question, please. So you're most welcome to ask, because this is a very fundamental subject. So clear your doubts, enjoy the subject, that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.